the Northwest home for paranormal. You're listening to U.S. Phenomenon with your host, Mario Magana.
From the Pacific Northwest in the shadow of the 1962 World's Fair, the Space Needle. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be on this godforsaken planet of ours. This is U.S. Phenomenon. I'm your host, Mario Magana. Under the weather, but we will get through it. Again, tonight, or on this episode of this radio show or podcast, which you can find, you will be able to watch it as well if you go to onairmario.com. And if you are watching us, if you're not on one of our radio stations, you can go back and watch the podcast and watch the video. Tonight on U.S. Phenomenon, we're diving deep into the legends that refuse to fade. Our guest has been a longtime contributor of this radio show. Tom Sewid's a researcher, storyteller, and a mind behind SasquatchIsland.com, and also helping out at SasquatchLegends.com. From eyewitness encounters to decades of Northwest lore, Tom has spent years uncovering the mysteries that surrounds the mystical mystery of Sasquatch, the unexplained. So buckle up. This is where the myth, the mystery, and the possibilities collide. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show, Tom Sewid. Welcome back, man.
Hey, how you doing? Hello to everyone listening.
Hey, it's great. So is it breaking news? I mean, we got some really, congratulations on your behalf. I heard that you have some really amazing news that you want to share with the listeners and people who may be watching or listening.
Yeah, well, I manage SasquatchLegend.com here in Forks, Washington, out on the Olympic Peninsula, Sasquatch hotspot. And a friend phoned my wife last week and said, "Hey, look at this. Some guy's selling a private collection of Sasquatch casts, all framed with pictures and provenance." And so we got a hold of him that night, committed that we'd, muscle up the money for what he wanted, and phoned him up and said, "Okay, we're on our way to Moscow, Idaho to pick it up." And we drove out and bought the whole collection except for two that had already sold, but we already have duplicates of them. But they're going to be put in the back of SasquatchLegend.com for the museum opening of June 1st is what we're going for. And it's going to be a phenomenal collection of the casts that we purchased, the ones we already have, and then the killer stones I have of Sasquatches I've gathered through the years when I used to live and work in the bush of coastal British Columbia. And my masks and native regalia we use during the Sasquatch conferences that can also be used at our potlatch ceremonies of Chunacha, the Sasquatch, and Bakus, the little people. They're going to be in display cases in the museum, as well as our 8.5-foot sculpture or replica of a Sasquatch called Biggie. So it's big news.
That's great news. So you heard it here first. June, sometime in June, you guys are going to open up.
June 1st, hopefully.
Okay, so June 1st, mark it on your calendars. I'll tell you what, we don't take the show on the road, but we're going to take the show on the road. We're going to come. I even asked him yet. We're going to come out and we're going to do the show out there. So we'll come out.
Absolutely.
We'll come out there. We'll do a whole thing. We'll do the show out there. I don't know. Are you guys doing any, will be a grand opening, or will you guys do like a round table, like how we've done before, like a mini conference, or are you going to tie it into any other type of situation that may be going out there?
Well, seeing as I helped develop and host the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, I've got to go big or stay home. So we'll be making it big. I don't know what we'll do.
Okay.
I'm thinking of closing the one block of the highway like we do for parades and other events in Forks. And hopefully we'll do that. And then they'll invite food carts and vendors and the whole 9 yards and have a big Sasquatch grand opening of the museum.
And I know there's a small radio station out there. I forget the call letters, a news station out there. I don't even know if anybody's on it anymore, but Um, so for those who may be interested and you want to go, please email Tom or send me an email or text us 775-990-5151 so we can get you dialed into this whole on how you can get to be a part of this grand opening festivities. So send me a text and I'll relay it to Tom and we'll go from there. So if you're interested, if you're a huge Sasquatch person, Tom has, it's funny that Tom, we haven't had a chance to talk. And I think I sent you a text a while back. And apologies if you're listening on the radio, hearing me sniffle and whatnot. But my sister had a chance. Her and her girlfriends were came in the town from the East Coast from when she went to college, and they ended up going to Forks, Washington,
Oh
and
yeah.
they were going out there for obviously they weren't going out there to go see Sasquatch. They were really going out there to see Twilight, right? And
Yeah.
so as I was telling them, I was like, you got to go to them. You got to go to, you got to go over to the Bigfoot store. You got to go see Sasquatch Legends. You got to go over there and see Tom. I don't know if you were working that day, but I think there was like 4 girls all showed up.
Huh. Oh
and,
yeah.
and
Well, we have a corner of our store is Twilight merchandise. We sell all kinds of unique items that the other stores can't carry because we make it in house at Source One Plastic Displays in Arizona and Alabama. The owners that own the SasquatchLegends.com have a plastic acrylic company times two. So we got unique one-off Sasquatch stuff, of course, and Twilight stuff.
Tom, how excited are you about this? I mean, this to have these new items that you were able to purchase, these casts, these of Bigfoot's of Sasquatch's feet, right? The imprints of the cast models of the legendary Bigfoot Sasquatch.
Well, what's unique about it, and I didn't know until we were actually there, but he filled me in that what he did 16 years ago was reach out to Dr. Jeff Meldrum and say, can I get a replica of the Bossberg print and this print and that print? And Jeff, of course, oh yeah, for this much money, I'll make them for you. So he started making replicas for this guy's collection. And you can tell they're Meldrums because he put a gray powder into the plaster. So it's got that unique dark gray color to it, darker than concrete. So having Jeff Meldrum make those replicas for his collection, it's outstanding. Jeff was a good friend of mine, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but we kept the collection in its entirety except for 2 that he sold a few days before we got there. But that's what he wants. He said, I want now I can bring my grandkids there and show them this is used to be my collection, but now it's been bought by this SasquatchLegend.com and they have it in their museum. It's really going to set it off. We even have from the Paul Freeman Walla Walla, Washington, we got a few different tracks, knuckle
Yeah.
prints, hand print, and we even got a Sasquatch butt print where it sat down in mud and Paul casted it. It's about, I guess, maybe about that big. Got some booty, that Sasquatch.
Well, for those who are, maybe, Tom, you when you do the hand gesture, how you would say it was a large imprint?
Yes. A lot bigger than my back end.
Probably bigger than mine as well. So I got to ask you, as it's been a while, and I know you guys have been doing amazing things over there at Forks. And is this normally your slower time of the season, the winter, or do you guys stay busy?
We're slow this time of the year, like deathly slow some weekdays. Weekends we're do pretty good because everyone coming for the Twilight Museum being
Sure.
open. And but we catch up and stuff at work. I'm a native artist, so I get to, let the kids go take my shift so I can stay home here and, make more money per hour by doing my, native art originals. I actually just sold 2 salmon and 4 herring on a bowl that was 11 inches by 11 inches, made lathe turned out of Douglas fir. A gentleman here in Washington State, he's bought his second bowl he's bought off me, so that was nice to see that PayPal come in today and ship it out. And so art's a big thing. I'm specialized in Sasquatch art, of course. The house behind me, all the designs you see and many more you can't see are all the originals that I've created for our t-shirt line, mugs, cups, shower curtains, bath mats, the list goes on. And it's the best part though is investigating. Right now I would be on a freezing my butt off at a acreage of over 300 acres owned by a pioneer family here on the peninsula, half an hour drive down the road with Shane Corson from the Olympic Project and one of my team members, Steve. I'd be with them right now, sitting around a campfire, secluded. They're going to camp there tonight. Steve brought along our $40,000 worth of night vision gear. Shane brought all his stuff, audio recorders, list goes on, and they're set up, and hopefully they're going to record something tonight. If not, they're going to freeze for sure. But, it's on like Donkey Kong out here, and, it's so much Sasquatch reports come into my store and by cell phone, email, messenger that my wife and I have had to put a rule. We will only investigate within half an hour of this house and the store 2 blocks from here because we can't be wasting gas and time driving down the Lake Quinault, hour away,
Sure.
Macaw territories, which isn't my turf anyway, but I don't want to go up there because it's too far. And
Yeah.
just staying here within a half an hour of the house, it's on like Donkey Kong. And I'm doing expeditions here.
You know what's crazy, Tom, to think that everywhere, I mean, you've been doing this for such a long time. You know where the hot spots are. You know where where you're been able to get close or be able to have these encounters that you've had and shared with us in the past. It's interesting how much activity is going on over there at the peninsula as you're just, sharing with us right now. Um, on an average day, how many do you think how many people are sending messages to you?
I wouldn't say a day, a week. I'll get
Okay.
2 or 3 every week solid. And now that people are getting to know me in town, I've been here 21 months now,
Yeah.
managing the store. And I'll go to the grocery store like I did last evening, and some guy walked up to me fully camoed out and he goes, "Hey, I got a Sasquatch report for you." And he starts chattering away like a Sasquatch, telling him to be about when he had Sasquatches, around him. He didn't see them, but he could definitely hear them tree breaking, tree shaking, whooping and screaming while he was out elk hunting. So, and walk in the drugstore in Forks, lady there, she's me and my husband are coming back from Port Angeles, and you know where mile marker 4 is? I said, yeah. And she goes, yeah, well, we saw a big Sasquatch walk across the highway. So it's just steady with the reports.
Sure. And what's so cool, Tom, is like people are just coming up to you. They feel comfortable enough. And if you recall when we did that show, also show and roundtable in Buckley, how everyone was so appreciative of the event. It was free.
Yeah.
People came in, they had a great time. But you know what was something that really stuck out with me was that individuals came up to us and thanked us and said, "Thank you for having this. Thank you for giving us an open forum to be able to have this conversation." Because there are people out there that they don't want to be judged, right? You're like, people are like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, they think you're crazy." And we gave everyone a forum, and the place was packed. You know,
Yeah.
they and that's what I loved, that we were able to create something for a local business, and it just blew up. I mean, there was standing room only. People were standing in areas they weren't supposed to be in. Of course, they let them, obviously, the owner of the brewery allowed them to be able in these other areas that were kind of forbidden. But man, we had that place packed out, which was fantastic. And I hope that we'll be able to do that for your grand opening. I'll work on some stuff on my end. Like I said, if you're interested and you want to go and hang out at the museum on the grand opening, send me a text 775-990-5151. Tom, what's been going on around outside of Forks? Like any other hot spots? Have you been getting stuff around Mount Rainier. I've heard there were inklings of who the hell did I see? Someone posted somewhere on TikTok video or audio of Sasquatch. I was like, I don't know. I couldn't tell. I don't know. I should have sent it to you, but I did not. I was like, I don't know if that's real or not.
Yeah, well, my algorithms on TikTok, Facebook, they're pretty well taking care of me. So I'm seeing all of the different posts that are coming up, Sasquatch, Bigfoot related. And, I watch them all, but the trouble nowadays is there's so much of that AI stuff out there. It's just, you're just like got to really scrutinize what you're seeing. And oh no, it's got the haze line around it. It's pixelated. Yeah, it's
Right.
AI. So move on. But
Right.
I get reports from British Columbia, quite a bit of activity up there through the fall and early part of winter. I haven't heard from any of the shellfish clam diggers yet. Imagine they'll be hitting the water here with all the winter tides coming up, and this is clam season, so they're usually pretty good though. Everyone's got Starlink now on their boats, so they'll be sitting there going, "Yeah, we just got off the beach clam digging, Tommy. Yeah, thanks for messaging me and pinging my phone at 2 in the morning. What do you got? Oh, we had rocks thrown at us or whatever." So I get the reports constantly, and 2 months ago I was in Tacoma for the grand showing of David Paulides' new movie, American Sasquatch.
Yeah.
First time I ever did a red carpet in my life. That was pretty cool. And I'm in 6 scenes on his movie. Bigfoot a Girl, of course, on Amazon Prime. I star in that.
Yeah.
Last year, Expedition Bigfoot season 6. I was in numerous episodes. That's where I went Fear the Rogue, and I talked about the rogue Sasquatches. And then all the well, I don't know how many I got. I look at my board right now, and I think I got half a dozen podcasts this month alone. And I had one last night, you tonight, and I'm on another one tomorrow night. And it's just I'm getting the recognition out there, and it's because I do expeditions, and I want people to make a pilgrimage to Forks. Come into the store, buy one of my T-shirts with my native design. Some people are coming in, get me to autograph it and date it, and they bring it home somewhere in the U.S. and they'll send me an email where it's $300 they paid to get it framed, and then there's my T-shirt along with a signed Gimlin or Meldrum or whatever. And it's humbling. It's really nice to see people making a pilgrimage to our store in Forks just to meet me and sit down and chatter like Sasquatches about Sasquatch. And then there's the ones that book with me through sasquatchisland.com, and I'm charging $375 all inclusive, and you get to have me cook 3 meals a day for you, and we go Sasquatch expedition day and night. And you can't beat that. You get to stay in this
Oh,
house. Down the hallway there is the Patty Room 1967. It's all autographed Bob Gimlin's pictures and T-shirt and other things, and Patty's cast prints and pictures of Patty. So, you know, who other person is offering an expedition for Sasquatch like that? No one.
nobody. Now, in May, are there still you guys doing that thing still up there? Wasn't there some conference or you guys were doing some type of hangout in May? Was it early
We
May?
usually did it on, I think it's Labor Day or something in
Or,
May,
yeah,
but
or
we didn't do it last year, and we're not doing it again this year. Maybe next year, but what I'm looking at doing is more, uh, how would you call it? Gatherings. Like,
yes.
so what I'm doing is we have 3 places that we're looking at announcing very soon where you paid, like so many dollars. One of them is the Olympic Project compound. It, we just started talking about it yesterday, but Shane Corson said, "Oh yeah, I'm all down for that." What we're
Yeah.
planning on doing is having Shane Corson. He has opens the compound up. It's probably got 6 acres of grass, outhouses, and so forth. And people can drive in there and set up their tent or their small trailer. We're going to make it pretty strict that you can't come in there with a 26 or a 36-foot trailer behind your
I mean,
tent.
that's how I'm rolling, when I come when I
Yeah. No, you're on a Sasquatch expedition. You're not going to have a flush toilet. But we're going to have a gathering there. And then Sarah and Jonathan Brown with Sailor Sasquatch, they're working with me now, and they're going to be there. So what we're envisioning is everyone comes there, and we'll have area barbecues set up so that you can have it, grab your plate and go there to that barbecue, or Tom's doing hot dogs,
Yeah.
and the Browns are doing maybe chicken, Shane's doing steak, and you get to sit there and bring your folding lawn chair and sit there talking to all of us. Man, I'll call us what we are. We're Sasquatch celebrities. We've been at this for over a decade each, and doing a conference circuit, movies, television documentaries, podcasts, video casts, radio shows, editorials. I had ABC News come into SasquatchLegend.com yesterday and interview me for some travel show. So,
Yeah.
it's, when you got your face out there on everything, you have to give the people what they want. Because I know, and prior to 2015, I remember when I went to Sasquatch Summit and stood in the line for like 45 minutes, and I got to sit there and say hello to Jeff Meldrum and buy his book for 20 bucks or whatever it was and get my picture. I was starstruck. And that's why I want to do events where we bring you out. But instead of being a big conference of 2 days of speaker
Sure.
after speaker and everything's so scheduled, and you can't
Stuffy.
have that one-on-one with the Sasquatch celebrities, that's what we're going to give you. You're going to be able to come there and drink wobbly pops, beer, whatever around the campfire till whatever. And then if some people want to go on a rafting trip down the whole river, well, Steve, my team member from Sasquatch Island, he does commercial raft tours of the whole river, and we have found tree structures, caves, killer stones, trackways, just amazing amount of Sasquatch stuff we've found, and we've even heard them. We were going through the canyon one day, and it's about 150, 100 feet up on either side, maybe 30 feet wide at that point, and very gradual, slow. We're just slowly going down, and Steve goes, "You notice how quiet it is? There's no birds or anything." So I stood up, and you put your hands out like that. It's for Indians, when you do that to a Sasquatch, you're basically saying nothing to fear. And when I stood up on the raft, yo, Wixas Tunafa. Hello, I don't know who you are. How you doing, Sasquatch? Nothing. None of Klahoya, Sakwa, Sasquatch. And all of a sudden up on the hill, two different Sasquatches vocalized. And Steve just looks at me, keep talking Indian to them. And he goes, that was amazing. And I said, oh, yeah, they're just big, hairy Indians. They said they understood that I was, talking native language to them. And we never saw them, but hopefully we'll see them one day. We always got our cameras and everything.
Right. It's interesting. One of my favorite stories is the one you talk about, going down, you in your boat and the shellfish and them, doing, you having an encounter while you're on your boat and them throwing rocks and the whole 9 yards. To me, in this situation, because you're such a veteran, it's intriguing to me because all of us who are just normal spectators, like we want to see this. You, we're like, it's almost like deer in headlights. We're like, what? Tom's like, hey, this is what we're doing. It's just like, hello, how are you? You're talking to them, and you're able to just say, no, this is what we need to be doing. Where the rest of us were like, kind of like deer in headlights. Tom, in all the times that you've been doing this for 20 plus years.
Oh, longer than that, 45 plus years.
So 45 plus years that you've been doing this. Do you have a favorite memory or story that you like, you're out of all of them, you're like, this is the creme de la creme of stories?
Oh, I've had so many encounters with them. For the listeners, if they haven't heard me before, I lived in the bush for most of my adult life, 45 years roughly, commercial fisherman all over the British
Right.
Columbia coast, going places most humans will never go. Grizzly bear hunting guide for over 20 years and other animals. Hated humans in the 90s and the early 2000s. So, and I hate Christmas. I think it's a waste of money and time. So I go watch logging camps all by myself while the winter shutdown was on, anywhere from 30 days to 90 days. And so I've, you know, been out in bush most of my life, so I have a good grasp and understanding of how to look for Sasquatch sign, where to go, seasonal abundant proteins and foods, and get to those isolated areas. And that's where I used to be. But one of my favorite encounters with them was when I went to Omaha, Nebraska Indian Reserve, the Omaha Indian Reserve. I went down there with Peggy to investigate with one of the tribal uh, Facebook group people who do expeditions. They invited us down. We went down on our own dime. We had a broken, rotten tree thrown at us, about maybe that big a diameter with its rotten root ball got thrown at us that night. Heard some mimics and saw some possible tracks. We're only there for 2 nights, but the guys who invited us, their sister was counsel on the chief and counsel's table. So they asked me to send a proposal to do a tourism analysis for the Indian tribe, because that's one of my specialties is eco-cultural tourism. So I sent the proposal, this is what I do and so forth, and my prices, and they told me, I said, yeah, we'll get you a round trip ticket. You'll be down here for 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And a few days later, off I was from SeaTac to Omaha, Nebraska, and got picked up and went to the reserve and work all day long doing my contract. But at night, after a little siesta, get out there and investigate with FLIRs. And I guess it was the third night I was there. When I got there, this guy I was with, he was my sort of chauffeur and guide. I said, hey, you got a FLIR, don't you? I said, in the box. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's in the back seat. Well, the back seat, because he had kids, is filled with fast food stuff and garbage. And,
Sure.
he just said the FLIR was there. So he picked me up about, I guess, a couple hours after dark. And we drove out of the complex I was at, 2 miles, 3 miles out of Mason, Nebraska, out of the town. I was out there and by myself on 11 cabins. No one else was in them. And we pulled out of the campground. We are just going along the soybean field, and it rained the night before. So being from British Columbia, Pacific Northwest, the ground's going to be soggy. Well, as we're pulling out, I said, where's that FLIR? And he goes, oh, it's in the back somewhere. So I'm digging around and I find the empty box, dig around to the garbage. There's a little green mono FLIR. So I grabbed it. I said, how do you turn it on? He goes, there's 4 buttons up top. You push one of them and it'll say calibrating. So being Indians, tear it out of the box, never read the instructions. I'm looking at it and it's dark. Finally, I see it say it's calibrating. So he tells me what to do. And his window's open. You can't see with a FLIR through glass. So I looked through the driver's window, which is open.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is pretty neat. And all of a sudden I'm like, and I thought they were Indians. Well, they were Sasquatches. They're Indians. But anyway, I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, take a look. And the time I was looking, it was a pregnant female was the closest one. And she was like big pregnant. And beside her on her left side walking, and they were going like this from my left to the right, was this big male, probably 8'4", somewhere in there. It was big. But what really caught my eye was they had the hang lip Cro-Magnon fetal alcohol syndrome, Down syndrome type look, and this lethargic glazed donut face, and they're just lumbering along and didn't even look at the vehicle, even though the lights weren't pointing at them.
Right.
And the Indian tribe member I'm with, he gives me the FLIR, and when I grab it, after he looked through for about 30 seconds, I looked through and they'd done a 90-degree turn, and they're walking towards the edge of the field where the trees are, and you could see their back feet lifting up just like Patty. So you can see the entire bottom of their foot, and
Sure.
they're just lumbering along, and they just blend into the forest and they're gone. But probably under a minute, we observed them, maybe a minute and a half, but it was amazing, because no one ever reports about seeing a pregnant female or a female with a baby. It's very rare. but
Yeah.
I got to see a pronounced pregnant female, and then their hanglet faces and that fetal alcohol syndrome look about them. It wasn't until later when I was Google Earthing Omaha Indian Reserve and being there and having so many, encounters of vocalization, seeing trackways, hearing them mimicking. And I looked at Google Earth and I said, uh-oh. And when I did my report for the tribe after I got home to Seattle,
Yeah.
I recommended that they stop knocking the trees down and making fields and urban sprawl because the Omaha Indian Reserve, all around it, and it's a vast reserve, is clear cut industrial mowed down forests that are now industrial farms. Even across the Missouri River in Iowa, it's even worse. And what's going on in the Omaha Indian Reserve is interbreeding. They have they're stuck
Uh,
within that
yeah.
Indian Reserve, and I don't think enough new blood's coming in. That's why they got that sort of Cro-Magnon dummy look about them.
Sure. When you share this story, it was making me think about something that there's so many people out here doing this, right? There's you, there are credible people, there are people out here that are making AI videos. Um, do you feel like that's good for business or bad for business for you guys? I mean, do you feel like it's bringing attention, awareness to what is Sasquatch? Do you feel like the AI stuff is just borderline to the point where you're like, it's not really helping us out here by saying, oh yeah, well, whatever this fake AI video is of audio or the pixelation of video. I don't get that as much. I know I don't because it's just not in my algorithm, but it's interesting to me that there is some of that AI starting to pop up.
Yeah, but the Jesus Christ syndrome. So no offense, but the non-Indians that are out there, they perceive that Sasquatch has a biker beard. Looks like he came out of a moonshine hillbilly camp, jumped off the back of a Harley. He's got this big, heavy beard and big, heavy mustache.
Right.
And then when you look at it, as soon as it has a beard like that, when in doubt, like John Binderdagel taught me, when in doubt, throw it out. Perfect. And with
Yeah.
AI, I remember 8 months ago when it first really was starting to pick up, a fellow investigator from Idaho, he was playing around with it. And for his books he makes, that's, what do you call it? Ray
Audio.
Harewood with his Sasquatch magazine. But anyway, he had some great pictures in there. But I told him, I said, Ray, they don't have biker beards. They don't have chimpanzee gorilla type open big flare slit noses. They have human noses. They're humans. He goes, Tom, it's not me, man. It's the AI program, And I said, where's
uh,
the female ones? And now you're just starting to see the female AI Sasquatch, but there's still the AI Sasquatch always has the biker beard because it's in the software and so forth, and always has the flared nose like a gorilla. So right away when you see that, throw it out. It's
Throw it
AI.
out. Yeah. What do you think? And I know that we've gone back and forth about this, Tom. And when I've had other people come on the show in the past, I've always said this. I was like, I always believe that Sasquatch is indigenous to the planet, not someone as a UFO or cloaking or going as an alien. Excuse me. You're starting to see people share the other versions of what they believe Sasquatch is. And why are there stories that people are pushing that are of some type of other life form of not being indigenous to the planet? If they're like they think Sasquatch cloaks or goes into like the tree and is gone, why do we get those types of reports where people think that Sasquatch is not indigenous to this planet? And I know you've worked with these people in the past. Why do you
What
think
I
you?
look at, always follow the money. So
Yeah,
you're sitting there, you didn't have a prom date in high school, you got picked on in high school, you weren't in the number one group sports or rugged
sure.
creekers, we called ourselves back in the day. We were the pot smoker, cigarette smoking, drinker, partiers, fighting each other. That's the gang I ran with. And you saw the lerps and the geeks and brainiacs and everything else. And then all of a sudden, life comes after high school and they're still not getting attention. But then they get interested in Sasquatch. And then they notice that, wow, a lot of the woo-woos, the orb turning believers, cloakers, portal jumping, UFO flying, glyph laying, mind speaking people are starting to get on the docket for the conferences more and more,
Yeah,
and the podcasts and the video casts. And why is that?
yeah.
Well,
Why is that?
because when you're got a bean farm and you're selling beans, well, if you're canning them and selling them or drying and selling them, well, you stick to one label, you're going to go bankrupt. But if you get different labels and different canning companies that can your beans, you're going to make profit. And that's what it's all about. The facilitators of everything Sasquatch related, which is the industry, they need to diversify or die. It's a business model that has to be followed. So you can't just have all criterists like me. You got to bring in the woo. And some of the conferences now are 100% woo.
Yeah,
And, I have, Sasquatch Island, my Facebook group. I have rules, and there's absolutely no woo woo to be commented or spoken about, period. And if you do, I'm going to block you. Simple as that. I exercise the block option because then if I don't, then the woo woo is going to go, oh, but Tom, it it turned into an orb. Twice I've seen that, and I've seen them cloak before too. And then I got to sit there and get in a debate with them. There's a wall between the criterists and the woo woos that Donald Trump couldn't build, and it's got to stay like that, and will stay like that. And it's because I got to stay focused. If I start reaching out to people who believe in the UFO flying, mind speaking, orb turning, portal jumping, cloaking Sasquatch, then I'm not crispy. I'm not focused on the critterist aspect, and I'm trying to pursue a critter that I can hopefully sit down after gifting and have a Diane Fossey, Jane Goodall interaction with them and videotape the soles of their feet, their mouth as they're biting into an apple, the movement of their eyes as they walk out of shadow into sunlight. And when it's all recorded up close and audio and DNA samplings hopefully taken, maybe it's not me, it'll be someone else who hopefully does it at that level. And then when the doctors come in that study dentures and teeth and chipping and staining and muscle movement on the face and eye dilation of the pupils and iris movement and the epil, the what do you call those epidermal ridges on the bottom of the foot, and
yeah,
maybe there is or maybe there isn't a mid-tarsal break because we don't know for sure yet, and it's basically being hypothesized through tracks that were cast. And so when you do have that, you can prove if you show it like Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall did, the people believed them because they had journals, photographs, videos of mountain gorillas and chimpanzees. And Jane Goodall was able to come out and conclusively confirm with her journal entries, her photographs, and her videos that we hairless bipedals aren't the only tool users in the animal kingdom. Chimpanzees use sticks and the ant hills to get the ants and eat them. And so that's what I look at. And that's my quest, is to get that hopefully interaction. And, but I can't be contaminating it with things I don't believe in. And the reason why I don't believe it, I've had 2 encounters with Sasquatch where I've been within 10 feet. I've had 4 encounters where I've been within 25, 30 feet. And I've had up to 30 encounters when I knew they're around me when I was out in the bush or on a beach. Didn't see them, could smell them, could hear them, saw their tracks, saw their tree breaks and everything, heard a tree break, went investigated, there's a fresh tree break. You can see the fibers still springing out on it. So keeping it crispy and not clouding it with the other aspects that may or may not be a characteristic or attributed to a Sasquatch. First off, we got to identify that they do truly exist. Then we can get in, as Dr. John Bindernagel taught me, then we can delve into the possible other characteristics and elements a Sasquatch might have.
I ask you this, Tom, and I know that you know this individual, Ron Moorhead, in regards to his Sierra Sounds. Do you find, because I know that I've interviewed him multiple times, and the Sierra Sounds went from his sounds. Has his story changed over the years in regards to how, like, it originally he got, if he originally thinks that he has evidence of Sasquatch vocalization, I'll be
Out of
honest with
respect for my elders and my Kwakwakiwak and Cree tribal ways, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. He's a good friend of mine. He's an elder.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the debate, it's not my ground to walk on or a door to open. But I do know that two of the sounds I've heard Sasquatches make.
So
That's on Sierra Sounds.
okay, so you believe that his recordings are of Sasquatch.
Two of them,
Yeah.
because I've heard Sasquatch make that vocalization. I can't say the rest. I've never been to Northern California investigating Sasquatch yet.
Sure. Because it's just
And
like any,
every
it's like,
Sasquatch has different language.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it just like different tribes have different
Well, they are
languages.
different. They are the other tribe.
Right.
So I
Well,
speak Kwakwala a little bit. I speak a tiny bit of Cree. My mother's Cree. My dad was Kwakwakiwak. I know more French and Latin than I do my native tongues, but I've heard people speaking different native languages. You drive Vancouver Island, and there's 4 different dialects or
sure.
6 different dialects on Vancouver Island alone from the tribes. You travel British Columbia, I think there's over 47 different dialects of the Indigenous people in coastal British Columbia. So Sasquatches are no different. They're another tribe. They're just bigger, hairier, have nocturnal vision, retain their ability to excrete from their armpit glands when they feel threatened or intimidated. They have language, they have laws, very strict laws. They sing, they hum, they mourn, and they fear. But the one thing with Sasquatch is they're in harmony with nature and the environment. But listening to the different recordings, like Julie Wrench out of South Carolina in the Uwharrie Forest. Her and her husband were getting all kinds of audio recording, and she was sharing it with me this up until about 3 years ago because we kind of drifted apart. I should reach out to her. But anyway, listening to the audio loops that she sent me, I'm just like, wow, they speak a whole different dialect than the Pacific Northwest Sasquatch.
Excuse me. Fighting a cold, but when we talk about Sasquatch and we talk about the evolution of like the lifespan of of a Sasquatch, which we don't know, at least
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't.
we know. Shamans know.
So, what is the lifespan? If something like the average listener may or viewer may not know, what is it?
Average 80 to 100 years, 120 years. Old ones, 150. Some of them, 180, pushing almost 200, the white and the gray ones. And when I learned this from an Omaha shaman lady, after 4 or 5 days interacting with her and learning a pile of knowledge, I said, how do they get so old? She turned around, slapped me, just like a Sasquatch slaps their young and
Yeah.
stupid, and goes, haven't you been listening to me all these days? Sitonga, we call Sasquatch, keeper of the medicine. We shamans sometimes will, if our shaman dies and didn't pass on all the knowledge, someone from the tribe has to step up and say, I volunteer. And they walk into the bush, and 2, 3, 4, some cases 6 years, they come back out of the bush and they go, I'll be the shaman now. What they were doing was interacting with the Sasquatch in their territory that they share with Sasquatch since the dawn of our creations, Sasquatch and Indian tribe. And they learn the medicinal remedies from the Sasquatch. And that's why Omaha called him Sitonga, keeper of the medicine. And they have, like that shaman told me, they have forgotten more about the local remedies from plants and roots, flowers, and other things than we will ever know. And after I pursued researching more Indian tribes, interacting with them, reading, I found that it's pretty much indicative of most tribes. Someone from the tribe would interact with them. And I've been in a few places and other tribal territories where, oh yeah, my dad, we used to know when we were kids when dad went for his walkabout with the Sasquatches.
Right.
His 3 pairs of shoes, boots would be on the porch. Dad would leave barefoot. And a couple weeks later, he'd show back up and like nothing happened. But when I met this gentleman, he was like that at the table when we're having lunch. And son got up and went and did something because it was his restaurant. I looked at that man, same age as me, and I said, "Oh, you've lived with them. You're feral. I could see it in your eyes. I know because I was feral for a time. I got so sick of humanity. I just walked into the bush and away I went. Weeks on end, a few months. I did live out there, work out there. Sometimes I just stay out there. And winter time, when it got cold, go watch a logging camp. And just the bush is bliss. If it wasn't for that ring Peggy gave me, I'd probably be out there right now, and I blew my right knee out 21 months ago instead of managing SasquatchLegend.com, living in a beautiful company accommodation home. And, but cards stacked up for me in my favor. I got
Yeah.
pickup truck, I got Olympic Peninsula rainforest all around me, beaches on either side of me, and prime Sasquatch territory. So I've learned that Ikekekame, my creator in my language, God, as some people call him, but Ikekekame gave me gifts. And he gave me the gift to be able to do art, to retain legends and stories and history from anyone, but mainly from the native people I grew up with, my family and other tribes. So that when I was a commercial fisherman for those many decades, my lifetime, and I'd end up in places like where Les Stroud went because you got the idea from me. Go to Clem 2 to Kitasoo Hey people. It's on like Donkey Kong for Sasquatch there. Except the Indians up there didn't want Les to find a Sasquatch. They put him up at the lake. Didn't know Sasquatches that time of the year up there. I could tell by the foliage and everything that he was at the wrong spot. He should have been on the Shellfish Beach around
Yeah.
that territory. Then he would have found Sasquatch. And then going to other places and being a hunting guide for decades. And, I was able to live like a Sasquatch, be close to them. And now I like to coin that, I guess, 60 years old now. I guess I'm the Sasquatch shaman for
Yeah.
them.
You are
I've
guests.
learned so much from them, and I'm bringing it forth to the hairless bipedals. That's why I do so many podcasts and conferences, video casts, radio shows. The list goes on because my knowledge, every now and then I'll feel my heart. I've had 2 heart attacks already, and I always think, "Where's my nitro?" Oh, okay, it's in the bathroom, the drawer. It's in my nightstand. Oh, there's one over there. And because it's just a matter of time, I'm going to be like that good actor from Sanford and Son. Oh, it's
Oh
the
no.
big one. I'm coming. But
Yeah.
it's that day is going to come. People know that. That's why they buy my T-shirts and get me to autograph it and sign it. Because they know that I'm going to be tits up, 6 feet under, pushing daisies here within 10 or 20 years. And when that day comes, my art, like when I did that bowl today and mailed it out, I had to put together a 5-page letter of provenance so that that rich gentleman who bought that bowl for $1,000, when I do calf out, he can always bring it to the art galleries and say, "Here's the letter of provenance. I bought it for 1,000." Oh, yeah, we can sell that for 5 to 8 times what you bought it for 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's why people buy art. They invest. And what do you? We could only wish we could go on a porthole and show up in Italy and say, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. I'll buy those
Sure.
drawings off you, but sign them and sign this letter of provenance and jump back in my porthole and go to a gallery in New York and go, here's the provenance, everything. It comes directly from Michelangelo and Da Vinci. Oh, we can get Sotheby's on the phone and they'll take 30%, but I'm sure it'll go for over 10 million. That's why you buy art.
Sure. Our guest tonight, Tom Sewid, Sasquatch Legend, SasquatchIsland.com. Tom, we're going to come out there for your grand opening for the grand opening of the museum and come and hang out. We'll do a show there. Hopefully, it'll be on a weekend. But we'll make it out there this year, and we'll make a big to do out of it. And what I would say, listeners, if you're interested in hanging out with Tom and you want to go to this event that is not even penciled in yet, but this is going to happen, send me a text 775-990-5151. You can always go to his website to stay on top of this at sasquatchisland.com. Tom Sewid, our guest this evening. Tom, it's always a pleasure, but I got to ask you something, and I don't know, because I try not to watch a lot of other stuff going on. I always bring this up, and are we? And this is me asking this, and I don't know what other I don't know what he or other shows are, people doing the missing 411, but these people that are going missing in these national parks, it's got to be Sasquatch, right? Or are these human ferals that are living out there in the bush, in the national forest?
Well, you can't jump to a conclusion. You got to look at the percentages.
Yeah.
100 people go missing. The big percentage of them, 60% or more, will be attributed to stupidity or natural causes. They both
Yeah.
lump into the same one. Twisted an ankle, fell off a cliff, broke a hip,
Boom, gone.
starved, died of thirst.
Yeah.
Animal gets them, that's end up being a steaming turd in the forest. But
Sure.
100% of them that go missing, they will all turn into turds. Critters will eat them. But there's a small percentage that didn't fall in the river and get swept down and stuck in a log jam and decomposed, and the critters ate them, crayfish and so forth, and the bones settled down on a deep hole to never be seen again.
Sure.
Or they fell into a crevice and they're never going to be seen again. And every one of them got eaten by many critters. But there's that small percentage, and I think it's probably around 5 to 8%. And that's just BS speculation because I have no data to base it on. But there is that small percentage, 5 to 8%, we'll say, that ended up getting taken out by a Sasquatch or a clan of Sasquatch that are cannibals. They like eating beans, human beings. Why? Because we're stupid and slow and easy to catch. That's why. And most of the people that go in the bush aren't like me, bush savvy. They're, wearing their REI mountain equipment co-op. They got their bear bell. They got their pack sack with a hose and a water bottle so they can sucky, take a drink. They don't go out, like we do. And they end up getting taken out by Sasquatch because they're easy prey. And, we know that I've been hearing rumors that there's 3 missing people on the Olympic Peninsula in the last 5 years, and they attribute those ones to Sasquatch. Vancouver Island, we have 3 missing people on there. You just go to Vancouver Island missing people, or even British Columbia missing people. You want to see missing people in the bush, you go to British Columbia missing people on Facebook. It'll enlighten you about how would a young, muscular guy like that with a little bit of bush skills end up missing. And so Sasquatch is, if it's 5 to 8% out of 100, that's 5 or 8 people. Out of 1,000, it's 50 to 80, 10,000. So when you do the math at small percentages, that Sasquatch are possibly taking them out and turning them into Sasquatch steaming turds on the forest floor, it's scary. That's why I never go in the bush without a gun.
Well, and my question to you, I know in Washington State it's illegal to shoot or to hunt Sasquatch. We can thank the governor Dixie Ray for that one. I bring this up because I think the most intriguing missing story was the Sam DeBull 2000 whatever 2021 2020. Yeah, I just had started the show. This individual went missing. He was a professional, and he was on the Malwich trail of Mount Rainier. The only thing they found, and I guess he had his pack and everything, was just his water bottle. They found nothing else. And I'm like,
Yep.
what the hell happened to all his stuff? I don't know if he fell into a crevasse or whatever the case may be. In his circumstances, people saw him, but why only his water bottle? Where did his stuff go? You know what I mean? Like, it just is intriguing to me that is the only piece of his existence was a water bottle. It's crazy to
Yeah,
me.
well, you look at, you just have to reflect back to the early 1900s to Robert Ostrom, I think he was, up in Butte Inlet, Toba Inlet, British Columbia, across from Vancouver Island Central. He smart guy. He went in his sleeping bag with his gun, his coffee, his snuff, bullets, and that Sasquatch came and grabbed him, threw him over his shoulder. Hours later, cramped up, he gets released, and there's the wife and the two children, male and female. He had to break away with that from that Sasquatch when he took the big snort of his tin of snuff, and then he handed him his hot coffee, and the Sasquatch drank that, gave him enough time to bolt, get out of there. But right there. So what you just said about that guy, I suspect he was picked up with everything, got his pack on, and if a Sasquatch didn't pop his neck like a duck, he'd
Yeah.
probably on the back being held, or two of them dragging him. All of a sudden his water bottle breaks loose. Sasquatch's, backpack, it's on your back. It's also got its waist chest strap. So went with him, and then they probably ripped it off of his clothes when they ate him. And we know Sasquatches will bury things, they're dead included. But they've been known to bury stuff they don't want us to find, and probably dug a hole and buried that some deep part of the forest up a mountain side of Mount Rainier, and no one's ever going to find that backpack.
Right. I think before we leave, we wrap things up here from the Pacific Northwest. One of my other favorite stories is the one that's on your website about the after the Mount St. Helens eruption. Will you guys be sharing that story on the grand opening? Will you guys be sharing that story with the with
I'm
the with the military guys finding where they were picking up all the the game carcasses, the gaming car?
Oh, I debunked that one. I have been debunking it steadily.
Okay.
Benefit of the doubt, knowing my Sasquatches and playing bush chess with them through the years, they're smart. They're humans. They got
Yeah.
well-developed frontal lobes, even though they got a conical head. That conical head has a lot of gray matter in it. And my family that live in Ariel, Washington, we adopted them in. It's called Laluska Foundation, LESOOKA Foundation. You look at Laluska Foundation, Ariel, Washington. Phone the Kelso Longview Chamber of Commerce will give you the contacts. But anyway, it's a big native cultural center with all my family's crests and regalia and everything, and they do performances. But they've been living there since late 60s. And during shaking and rumbling of Mount St. Helens, the family would sit there in the evening because Mount St. Helens is just south of them, but they're out of the danger zone. But they would hear Sasquatches running to the north, vocalizing, making noise, family groups of them. So the Sasquatches knew because their oral history told them about, what is it, 50,000 years ago when Mount Rainier blew its top,
Yeah.
Tahoma. They know what the negative ramifications of staying around a volcano were. They knew about the pyroclastic flows through oral history. So they DD'd out of there, 3 points of the compass. There was no dead, burned Sasquatches found by the military. I'd give them benefit of the doubt. Even our Indian stories tell us, like when
Yeah.
Mount Rainier was rumbling, we knew not to come down here in our canoes. That was thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Archaeologists will tell you, oh no, Tom, your people have only been here for about 18,000 years maximum based on carbon dates. Oh yeah? Go to Google Earth. Take a look at the Pacific Northwest underwater, what you call a continental shelf, and you'll see the ancient rivers channels going way out into the Pacific. I know because I used to fish there with sounders for black cod down 6,000 feet and up. And we would fish those serpentine ancient river channels. And when we started putting the points on a chart, because that was my job, and I looked at my captain, I said, look, these are old rivers that come out of that inlet. So when that mile thick ice was on the North American continent, like putting a cookie sheet and a big sponge and filling the cookie sheet up with water and then squeezing the sponge and letting it go, the cookie sheet almost dries up. That's what it was like during glaciation. So if you want to find the carbon dates that show Sasquatch and humans going back 100,000 years or more, it's off our shores in those ancient riverbeds that are under thousands of feet of water. And it's been proven scientifically by the archaeologists and anthropologists that that is the case. They find old villages, couple 300 feet up in British Columbia with dredges and roves and so forth. So for Sasquatches, I think they've been here as long as my native people, since the dawn of creation, 100,000 years plus. So they know about Mount Rainier blowing its top. So that when Mount St. Helens was rumbling and shaking, they DD'd out of there. They knew something bad was coming.
Our guest this evening, Tom Sewid, tonight from Sasquatch Legends, from SasquatchIsland.com as well. Tom, look at that. That's amazing.
One of my designs.
If you have a chance, go to his website. He's got some amazing stuff there. We're going to come out again. If you want to hear stories from Tom Sewid and hang out with us on the grand opening of the Sasquatch Museum at Sasquatch Legends, send me a text 775-990-5151. We'll get you on a list. Your first name, just send me a text. Say, hey, I'm interested, because this thing is going to be sold out.
What you should do, you should take a look at the Forks Chamber of Commerce.
Sure.
There's a place called Moss Squatch, MOSS Squatch. And I've been there. There's 11 yurts, high end glamping, and 4 or 5 cabins. And he's got Sasquatch stuff all over. He's even got his moss garden looking like a big Sasquatch torso and head and other things. So maybe we look at having an event there, rent all his cabins, and have a gathering there
and do something as we wrap things up here from the Pacific Northwest. Coming June, Tom Sewid's huge Sasquatch museum at Sasquatch Legends. Tom, it's always a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. I apologize for being under the weather. So I thank you all for hanging out with us. As we wrap things up from the Pacific Northwest, I'd like to thank Tom. From my entire team, if you're out in Forks, Washington, please stop by Tom's spot there, right off the highway. But go see him at Sasquatch Legends. You can't miss it.
The legend. Sasquatch the Legend.
The legend. Okay.
.com. Right there on my shirt.
There it is. From the Pacific Northwest, from my entire team, Sophia Magana and myself, Mario Magana. Oh, be sure to listen to the podcast as well, which you can find on any of your favorite podcasting platform. Just go to onairmario.com, click on the podcast link to subscribe. Tom, thank you for hanging out with us as we wrap things up here from the Pacific Northwest. I got to hit the button. Where is the button? Where is the button? We'll be sure to look up at the sky. Wow, I am really out of it, because you never know what you might see. Good night.